You too.
My apologies for being late. Some subway delays coming from downtown, but it's great to see everyone. And thanks to those who are joining us online.
Can you hear us? Because we cannot hear you.
Yeah, you just cut out.
There you go.
We can hear you now.
Take three. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to February's Executive Committee meeting.
Are you sorry?
My name is Jessica Chapey. I'm pleased to call the meeting to order. Just a quick little bit of housekeeping before we just jump in. You all know we have a hybrid meeting policy. We continue to meet and make ourselves available in this hybrid policy, and the public and press are invited to join remotely. I think actually over probably 10 people from the public joining us today. This is consistent with our policy as well as New York State open meetings law. Full board members are expected to attend this meeting in person unless you have a disability and or extraordinary circumstance as defined by the New York State open meetings law. I think you guys have heard the drill: extraordinary circumstances, disability, illness, unplanned or emergency caregiving responsibilities, or other significant or unexpected factor which precludes your physical attendance. Excused committee members and members of the public will still be able to participate virtually. Board members who are joining via Zoom must leave their cameras on. Thank you all for doing that. We encourage members to join virtually, and tonight I want to be sure we leave time to hear from those who are joining virtually in addition to those in the room who may have comments. This meeting is being streamed via our YouTube channel, and a transcript is being recorded. Tonight on our agenda, we have two affirmative topics. I think we do have a couple of items for new business, which we should plan to leave time for. And I'm going to request that for our agenda, we actually are going to swap items 1 and 2. Carrie has to leave early, and she's done a tremendous amount of work in gathering feedback from many of you on the NYCHA progress. You'll note that it is just a committee update. We're not taking a vote on this. The full letter will go to the board next week. But wanted a chance to just brief everyone on where we are with the topic in light of all of the tremendous work that's been happening to date as it relates to NYCHA. For that, I think I'm turning it over to Jeffrey to lead that, and Carrie will join in as appropriate.
Yeah.
With that, Jeffrey.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. A couple of things up front, and first, for your awareness, I'm voting present, not eligible on this letter, but given the committee has taken its votes, I am reporting that out tonight. Any questions will go through Carrie or Jessica on this. But just wanted to give everybody the download, given the scale of the topic. CLU convened last Tuesday, and accordingly, in addition to the individual homework that was given to all committee members, we received formal feedback from WPE, housing, ACES, and transportation, and all of that has been incorporated. Given that this is a response to the draft scope of work, everything is quite literally on the table. And so this is an extensive response to what we received from NYCHA earlier in the month. A couple of things on background. We sought an extension to submit this after our full board meeting. So this is due on March 8th, and we're thankful that we were granted that extension, given the significant concerns as it relates to the process that this proposal has undertaken. And clearly, community engagement and community consideration was not at the forefront of the development team's plan, given they put out a timeline that really made it very difficult for us. So we had to really seek an extension. This all came out of a change to the working group that was underway from 2019 to 2021. That work did not entail the demolition or the redevelopment of the campuses as is being proposed today. So a significant change to how the scope of work is being considered. And we're seeking clarity on that in terms of how they're leveraging the RFP accordingly. I'm sort of giving you the upfronts of our letter, which are separate and apart from how we intend to respond to the individual 20 sections of the draft scope of work. We continue to await the survey that NYCHA has told us they used to create this plan and come up with a decision. We are waiting on that still. Given the public nature of this project, which includes the need for NYCHA to pay for the replacement of these units, and build new market rate and affordable housing. We've requested a financial plan and all the details that go to that, also outstanding. One of the newest concerns that has come to light is that there's significant concerns regarding how the project is proposed to be developed, and we feel that there's a good amount of segregation, making 70% of the land for market and mixed income housing and 30% of the land for NYCHA only, and that doesn't jive well with how we often advocate for housing development in our community. And of course, paramount to most of this, really at the end of the day, is tenant protections and tenant rights, and that those will all be outlined accordingly as it relates to what our expectations are, regardless of what they pursue. Core among them is the rights of the tenants, their protections, and how they'll be protected. The draft scope of work calls for a studying of 4 alternatives. In addition to those 4 alternatives, we put forth 6 additional alternatives. And I'm going to give you the high level of those on that. So a plan to evaluate the previously agreed to work, which was full build renovation via the PACT RAD agreement. A separate alternative, a plan that studies a combination of new construction and renovation with infill housing. Infill refers to open land right now and adding new housing. Another alternative is a plan that studies a new site plan using the pyramid style development, which will take height off the avenue, preserve light and air along the avenue, and bring height to the middle of the block. Another alternative is a plan that includes senior specific buildings, so purpose-built housing for seniors. Another alternative is a study of middle income housing, so that the band that we always struggle to identify, the 120 to 165 AMI, instead of strictly market rate housing, to subsidize the renovation of construction of NYCHA housing, as middle income housing was always a part of our redevelopment plan as regards to the working group plan. A study of a plan that secures permanent affordability through regulatory agreements and deed restrictions between NYCHA and the developer instead of a broad rezoning, and the development of permanent affordability through mandatory inclusionary housing, which is the city's zoning mechanism. And then also a consideration to study how the creation of super blocks might potentially reduce the heights of the buildings while also increasing density to more perhaps appropriately realign development overall with this. Those are the high level alternatives we're asking for, which, as you can tell, are pretty significant on their own. There's 20 other sections, individual, in this draft scope of work: land use and zoning, socioeconomics, sewer, noise, construction, that we have individual comments throughout based on the committee's work and all that we received from the other committees. As Jessica mentioned, we felt it was appropriate to give you this high level overview before this letter hits your desk. Before full board next week.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Again, just want to emphasize they are in the process of synthesizing all of this information. Carrie did, in addition to Jeffrey's update here, Carrie did a great job at the clue meetings, going through even in greater detail in summary. So if you want to just find that, if you're interested in that, you can go back and watch the tape on that. And really did just want to make sure you all knew, given the significance of this project, that you felt updated and aware and had an opportunity if you do have any questions before full board. We can keep that brief because there have been a lot of discussions, but we'll do Christine and then Joe and then, sorry, JD.
So I have a question whether we are asking anywhere that they would be, that people would move only once. So that it would go from here and they would go into a building and that's it. They won't have to move again.
Right now, as proposed, 120 people would have to move twice. 120 units, excuse me. Houses, units, so would have to move twice.
In the first one.
Exactly. So we're asking, based on all these other studies, for that not to happen.
Okay.
So it's definitely part of what we're looking at to consider.
Yeah, just that, to note that we also have until March 18th after the full board, correct? 18th?
No, March 8th. 2 days after the full board. It's
I'm sorry, get the other one. I apologize.
Yeah, this is a
The
lot of stuff.
28th, the other one's the 18th, right? Yeah, so we have, there's a little more time. Got it.
We'll just kind of go around. JD.
A quick question, sorry, clarification. When you talk about segregation, we're not talking about the NYCHA building versus
Yes.
Yeah.
So as proposed by MCB, they are saying that all NYCHA residents would go to 3 buildings and the rest would all be mixed income and market rate.
But segregation is the best that you can do.
And sorry, before we do more questions, I just see Carrie's hand up and she has done a lot of work to, just as co-chair, Carrie, do you have something you want to add to Jeffrey's review before we do more questions?
I just wanted to, I'm sorry if you said this, Jeffrey, and I missed it. Did you mention that we did vote on this letter at Clue?
I think so, but yeah, it was a vote of the committee based on everybody's feedback too. Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that. Thank you.
Okay, Matt.
The community facility space that's largely run with Hudson Guild, is that incorporated into sort of these different alternatives throughout this? Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
The gist for our alternatives is to get them to study more than just what their 4 are, which is the 4 based on their strict proposal. And this really asks them to go a lot further in terms of looking at that.
And also one move for them.
Yes,
So in housing, that came up a big deal to get the guild not to have impact on services.
Right.
Build, move, not move twice.
Okay, great.
Jeffrey.
I was just wondering if any consideration was given to like proposing that they study all these additional plans, whether that would significantly extend the time that this project would, or even if that matters, but if that was a consideration, and if we know exactly what effect that would have on the implementation of any plan.
it didn't come up for discussion. Generally speaking, there are some folks that raise concern that the more questions we ask, the longer this process will take. That has always been acknowledged. The key factor is here, this is our opportunity to get things studied.
Standard.
And right, exactly, as with every draft scope of work that comes our way for a project, any project going through this process, and then when you consider the scale that's being proposed here, that was why this list is as it is.
We'll do Katie and then listen.
Just had some very specific questions. So you mentioned that we're requesting the AMI between like 120 and 160 or something. Is that, in addition to some market rate housing, or are we saying no market, looking at a plan where there would be no market rate housing and just that?
Just the 120 to 165.
Thank you. In connection with the senior housing that we were talking about, are we suggesting that like if people are living in the NYCHA housing and then they reach a certain age, so they would move to the senior housing, or could people?
It's purpose-built senior housing, so currently for seniors is what's being proposed.
Okay, but if you became a senior later, you don't have to move.
Correct.
Right.
There would be turnover. You're right.
What's different?
Indeed. I just wanted to, because we're not going to very insistent people move out of their home if it's going on. And then I don't know if it's Terry or Jeffrey or who could, I'm so, like, I attended the ACES meeting and but I'm just a little unclear on what the sort of big picture timing is right now. Like, so we give our input and then like, what's the next step or what are the next votes or, I don't know, what's it?
They have to, so this is the scoping, right? And we've been told that NYCHA would like to start the ULURP process by the end of the year. But to do that, they have to go from the scope to publish the DEIS. So that's
We have to publish the DEIS by the end of the year.
between June and the end of the year. Yeah. Yeah, so that's a rough timeline. They haven't given us that. Although we've asked 14,000 times.
Okay, thank you.
Leslie.
I'm just gonna step back, just rewind just for a little bit. I was watching the meeting, the meeting part of it, good job harnessing all that. And a few members actually mentioned the lack of the new RFP, which is fine. I'm not saying that that's gonna be redone, but am I in the minority to think that we should at least formally comment on that in a letter preceding the big thing, or is it going to be incorporated in? Because it feels like that topic has been brought up, how there should have been a new RFP, just given the huge scope of change and the amount that was now kind of shifted. What, like, now that I heard other members speak about that, I didn't know if it was worthy of a one paragraph.
Our language, absolutely, our language was that if they choose not to pursue a new RFP, we want the clause in the existing RFP they are utilizing to make this drastic scope of work change. Meaning they have to give us the legal, they have to punch the clause showing why they're allowed to just do
The
this.
section.
Yeah,
Is it?
of the RF, of the current.
That makes sense, but is it worth commenting, like, that I'm not saying if there's a vote, that we say that, you know, it's a little concerning that it wasn't sent out for a new
But we
RFP.
stated it's very
You
concerning.
do, okay.
Well, there's a pile of like,
I just want to
Really
say
not
one quick
happy.
thing on that.
I figured it was incorporated, I wasn't sure.
Carrie?
Yeah, just on that, and to the question that came right before, if we were to insist that they, or, you know, not that they would do it, but if we were to insist that they reissue the RFP, that would in fact cause significant delays to, you know, getting the tenants of both campuses, anything other than routine maintenance for the next who knows how many years. So that I think we are trying to avoid.
I don't think, I'm not advocating for that, I was just saying that we should, just so it's not protocol, like, just so we know this
Yeah,
is
no,
not
it's
usual.
definitely stated in the letter, yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
there's a lot of slamming the bad process.
The process.
Okay, we have some, folks with their hands up in the attendees, so Mike Noble.
Mike, I'm bringing you over now.
Hi, Mike.
Hello. Yeah, Carrie, you're absolutely right. A new RFP would extend this drastically. If you folks want to see the actual RFP, and it sounds like you haven't, I will send it to you. I think I'm allowed to send it to you. That's
Information.
would that be helpful? And I have one
I think
question.
access to it, thank you, Mike.
What's that?
We already have, I think anybody who's wanted to see it has reviewed it.
Oh, you do? Okay, super. A question for Joe. You know, you talked about 44 years on the board and having seen this kind of thing so many times over the years. Let me ask you, when was the last time you saw somebody add an alternative to a draft scope of work?
Almost every single proposal that's come to us, on Hudson Yards, I think we have 14 different alternatives the board asked to be studied. It's a super common process on the board. And
Yeah.
it's a super common process in the environmental impact review. Very common.
Right. The question though is, were they adopted?
No, they were studied to determine whether or not portions of them could be incorporated into the proposed plan. Any large rezoning plan we've had, for example, West Chelsea, Hudson Yards, Western Rail Yards, 11th Avenue rezoning. We have requested additional alternatives to be studied, and portions of those additional alternatives became part of the final plan.
Yeah, okay, well, okay, I was sort of baiting you. That's exactly what I was hoping you to say.
You're welcome.
But no, just so people understand, I mean, we're not just asking for pie in the sky. What we're asking for is to look at these things, you know, pick out what seems
What can work and
appropriate.
not work.
Yeah, right. So let folks know that this is not a big drastic thing. We're just saying, hey, look at all this, pick out what works. Let's put it all together.
It actually, the legal part is, if they study it as we go through the ULURP process, then and only then can various elements be incorporated because they have been studied. And the ULURP
Exactly.
process, final, figure it out how to make the deal from every angle work.
Right,
And I
right.
think that last point is so important, right? If it's not included to be studied, then it's not gonna make its way in.
I mean,
So-
it's to be considered.
Exactly, and so
Yeah.
that opportunity is so valuable for us to really kind of put our thinking caps on and say, if this went sideways, if we turn this on its side, literally, what would the options be? So that we can know and have the information.
Yes.
Sam.
Just one more, so I'm unclear with the RFP. If you do an RFP, usually you have like a fixed set of assumption. If things change, and they will, I mean, they would potentially, at what point is the RFP amended by dated?
Our RFPs are never amended. It's the agency that issues it. And in general, every RFP that the city's issued to the state, there's a general clause saying they can throw everything out and do it differently. That general clause, I noted in that 44-year mark, has never been invoked in the time I sat on the board. They may have said we started, example is the slaughterhouse. The slaughterhouse did not have a hotel in it, and they came to us with the financing problems, went back and forth, and we incorporated a hotel, but kept another part of it. It was supposed to be, so.
The developer then respond with, this is the changes that.
Not the developer, the agency has to determine whether the RFP still, the plan still meets the requirements of the RFP.
And I just think they are. Just to add to that, remember, an RFP is the public document asking folks to send their ideas.
Right.
And so we're past that. It is more the contract that the city is putting out there that they need to be able to point to make this happen. So we're the step beyond the RFP because an operator has been chosen.
Correct, but it's still quite it's not even unusual, it's unheard of that you apply to build a
X.
no, and then you come back. I said, it's a racetrack and you wanna build instead, ferry terminal.
Right.
You don't do that.
Right,
You don't do that.
right.
So.
And can I add one little background note to all the RFP thing? You know,
Sure, go ahead, Mike.
yeah, so the way this RFP was constructed was we had a template essentially to work from that NYCHA had used for all of its other PACT deals, all right? So we had a committee, about 12 of us, who sat down and drafted language to replace and to insert into that template that came directly from the working group's recommendations. So that's what I did. I mean, I I think I was probably the only one who actually did any drafting in that process. But it took us a long time. And I think we got every little bit into it that came out of the recommendations. So take some comfort.
Right.
Yeah, take some comfort in that, if you will. All right.
Thank you, Mike, thank you.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go to David, and then we're gonna wrap this up. David?
Hi, yeah, there's just a huge cloud of impropriety that hangs over this project. We've been talking about the RFP. This project went from a relatively small project to one that is the size of Rockefeller Center or Lincoln Center. And that was based on an existing condition survey of the existing NYCHA buildings that was conducted by Related. And as far as I know, that hasn't really been seriously challenged. NYCHA supposedly looked at it, but it hasn't been peer reviewed. We're not getting answers to critical questions from NYCHA about this project. The absence of a new RFP, I think that's a huge issue. We're not getting competitive proposals. Who's looking out for the city here? A lot of people are talking about this being a land grab by Related, and I really think that's a pretty good interpretation of it. I'm very concerned that in just providing comments on this proposal, will be construed as recognizing its legitimacy, which we should absolutely not be doing. I think we need a document right up front that says, we don't agree with the way this has gone forward. We've got too many questions. And in terms of ULURP, I've been through ULURP following projects myself. I know it's down the road a ways, but it can in principle disapprove a project, but that virtually never happens. Once a project is certified for ULURP, it effectively has city planning's imprimatur, and it's going to happen without major changes. It's set in stone and can only be chipped away at. That's my experience and that of other veterans of the process. It isn't about substantive change. It's about responding to community opposition with token compromises and table scrap concessions. We need to be focusing on scaling this project back as soon as possible. If we wait until ULURP, the game is over. I think we should start by pressing to take a zoning change alternative off the table altogether. It will just make even a bad as of right solution look better by comparison. Only 6% more NYCHA residents responded in favor of total demolition versus staying put anyway. The entire rationale for the zoning change option is to move them a few years earlier. Is that worth such radical and permanent change to Chelsea? You know, again, I just reiterate that we really need to make it clear upfront in our comments that we don't agree with the way things have been going. You know, I invite everybody to go stand on 6th Avenue and look north from 24th Street. That's what we have barreling down on us. That's the future of Chelsea. This project is not going to go away on its own. This isn't a time for polite comments. This is a time for screaming bloody murder and getting a lot of attention on this. And we need to really be pressing Eric Botchard to do the right thing by us. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'll just note that David shared similar comments at the crew meeting on last Tuesday. Carrie, Jeffrey, anything you want to add?
I just want to say, I think we can do both. I think we can be very critical of the process and how poorly it's been put forward and the lack of information. And also do our duty, which is respond to this document, make sure it can get effective going forward. David, just for my point of view, in West Chelsea rezoning, Hudson Yards, Western Rail Yards, we did not get scraps. We got a lot of things laid out because we fought like hell. I think the same issue is going to happen here.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, I also just want to note for the, I mentioned a small meetings update, but we are also meeting directly with NYCHA and Eric Botchard's office. And so these are, you know, avenues for us to continue to press hard on getting some of the things that are obviously documented in our letter, but have also been the subject of many conversations.
Are you referring to a specific meeting or process?
Well, we did meet with, Eric convened a meeting 2 weeks ago. And so there was that specific meeting and, but also are hopeful that there will be from this a process.
Because we still have all these outstanding questions to NYCHA, with no answers.
Exactly. Yeah, and that was the subject of that discussion. And they have indicated that they hope to have answers back to us, possibly even by the 8th.
Which they've been doing.
Understood. They gave a date by which they hope to do that. Obviously, we'll see when that date comes. I don't want to overpromise on their behalf in light of the past experience. But there is now open dialogue, and as I said, and I see Carl is joining us from Eric's office, but you know, he convened that meeting and hopefully this is an opportunity to continue to advance on some of the
The other lessons were there too.
Of course, yes. Okay, we're gonna move to the second item on our agenda. Thank you again, Jeffrey and Carrie and Joe and Maria for all of your work as it relates to NYCHA. The second item is also a tremendous amount of work. You all saw the letter, I'm sure, and I want to thank JD for his efforts in compiling all of the feedback. I'm hoping, JD, that you can give a little bit for those who might be less familiar with the project, just like 2 minutes about how you've been working to advance the project, and then specifically what this letter, you know, includes.
I don't think I can, well, I'd have to thank Christine and Leslie and Marty because their input, and Joe, I think you talked to Christine, that was their input that made this effort possible for tonight. We're under the gun. That's why the letter has to be sent preliminary draft. There's still stuff to add that's coming in, which I will do over the next day or two, and then you'll have something for the full board. This is the replacement of the Port Authority, the big bus terminal.
Easiest in the world.
That's coming in, and it's been ongoing for a number of years. I don't know how many years, 10 years, 15 years since it's supposed to be.
15.
And we have been meeting with them bi-weekly, I mean, twice a month, I think, is that correct? Bert has been leading a little working group to aggravate the Port Authority people as much as we can.
Did you say aggravate?
To assist them, it has been, I think, collegial and, although firm and robust in our discussions, but we have achieved as much as we possibly can achieve up to this point. There's still a long way to go. As Jessica pointed out, this is the DPIS, just a response. I tried to frame it with to be studied, to be confirmed, whatever, because it's mainly to say, study this. Now, we got some people wanted the building to see painted in rainbow colors, all kinds of things that we can say study it, but we can't say do it. So that's where we are right now. Brian Weber has weighed in, Paul has weighed in, the excellent suggestions, member of the land use committee to weigh in. This is land use, this is waterfront parks, this is transportation sort of involved. Attempt to know all those things, not repeat ourselves, but to get everything in. So next week we'll have the breakfast.
Thank you, JD, and again, tremendous amount of work here. Anyone else from the working group wanna comment on what's included or the process to be?
I just want to say it's an amazing letter.
Christine and Leslie.
Everybody
Marty,
worked on it,
all great.
amazing letter, and particularly like the conclusion.
Oh, conclusion, I thought it was real at first.
By the way, JD didn't have strong personalities contributing to the letter at all.
That is what editors do. Writing to actually read the thing, right? I did not put the conclusion yet because I thought you all might want to talk a little about it. At the land use meeting, Chris LeBron, brought very passionate, remarks about how the old community was destroyed. It wasn't so much for the Tory though. Joe's
Lincoln Tunnel.
time in 1930.
Port Authority, built Lincoln Tunnel.
Lincoln Tunnel, so
Port Authority.
maybe if the Christians would mention something like that, help you all.
And JD, can you just speak to the timing, just because was asked about the NYCHA letter, NYCHA process, like where, I know we have a short timeline right now, but then also what is expected in the next, what is it, 10 months? That other timeline?
Oh, with them?
Yeah, with the Port Authority.
I have no idea.
They want to. They want to bring the FEIS by the end of, by the middle of this year. And then they are even starting construction
Exactly.
by the end of this
The
year.
end of the year.
So
There's,
this is really moving.
Very quick.
there's an element here that is not as part of this project, that's decking over certain parts of Dyer Avenue to create a new at-grade temporary bus terminal, eventual parks. It's not part of this plan, this project. It's not part, not part of this project in the construction thing.
It is. This is what they are starting in,
Right, I know, but,
in December.
but they've separated out, it's not part of this, that construction is considered differently, that's all.
Okay.
They did that for a reason to move that in 2024.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's about 2024, that's the thing we should be aware of.
Right. Which is
Construction-
this year.
Right,
Yeah,
well,
right.
I'm kind of mentioning that, but it's
Exactly.
moving.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and I wanted to also note that they have held multiple hearings, hopefully you all had, the opportunity to, read about them or participate if you wanted. You can still submit your own testimony as individuals and would encourage you to do that, as part of this collection process. I think particularly as it relates to mitigation, the more that they hear about people's concerns, the more likely they may be willing to consider the recommendations around mitigation.
We've been meeting with them for almost 4 years, but it was always semi-private. Every time they showed us something,
Semi-confidential.
it was right on the bottom in big letters.
Semi-confidential.
This is
Nah.
not subject to
Not
FOIA,
subject to FOIL, not subject to-
not subject to FOIL. And only beginning this February has it become public. And we were pushing them to make it public as soon as possible and open it up to other people.
So
comments.
this,
And just want to say that this is not a one tear it down, build something. It's a whole process. Because they can't tear bus terminal down because they want to continue to use buses in and out. So you have to have an alternative before you tear it down. And that's what Joe was talking about,
the platform.
the platform.
So what we did in the letter is essentially say, this is a huge project. This is what it's going to do, lots of impacts. And therefore, we're going to need a lot of mitigation while we are saying this is a good project, right? So we're not saying it's not good, but we have letters, chapters and verse in mitigation.
I just want to add one, I'm sorry, Paul, go ahead. I just wanted to add, there are three basic things. We're still going to go through the, there's still a long
Right.
thing to go through here. And what we're, I think, Christine, Leslie, the big things are the little park space we want to get for that we want to knit the two sides of the old community back together if we can. And we're very concerned about the design, how it's going to fit in, what it's going to, those basic things.
Well, I had a question actually for probably Christine and Joe and JD. I know we commented on their, on their dress code. And then we also added something, hey, can we also
Right.
do the green beltway at 33rd? Like, I'm not asking you to look into a crystal ball, but I guess I am. Like, is it pretty much this is it and all these extra asks, so just for documentation purposes?
Oh, no.
No.
Could possibly.
No, that we are going to negotiate.
Yeah, nothing in totality. I wouldn't say we're not gonna get everything in totality, but there's a lot of things here. They know. So an example, during the course of this, we realized they are building on land that is zoned for residential use. So that meant we lost a big chunk of the neighborhood for residential use. So that's gotta be mitigated. And they didn't quite frame it that way, so we're gonna frame it that way to say, liver sites for affordable housing. The parks come after 10 years. That's not sufficient. They even say that their new patrons will use the parks, but not 10 years from now, day one, so they have to come up with some open space up front.
Yeah.
All have a lot of thoughts about it.
And I just wanted to also follow up on what Joe was talking about in terms of this is residential and the original plans had residential dwelling units, 2 towers, and those have now been removed. And when we're in a housing crisis, I think it's important that land that's being used as residential should have residential components, and we shouldn't be eliminating that component.
And one look, they can't do it in this
That's why
location.
we're
so it's
swapping
someplace else.
Find another location.
Right.
West
We want
Plumping
those-
location.
Really have to stress how they use.
And that is included, but.
2 points. One, on the letter, it's my understanding, I didn't read the 1,000+ page document, sorry, that there is specific reference to the use of Pier 76 for construction staging for the duration of the project.
No, they don't.
No.
No, they are saying they may use barge, but they are not talking about a specific location.
Yeah, they don't.
I would be greatly concerned, understanding the way the piers exist on the west side, that there aren't a lot of piers that they could stage construction from based on the cruise ship terminal, versus Pier 76. And so, while I think waterborne, movement of goods is hugely important, and we even took up years ago, WPE, that concrete plant that was gonna do something off, I think we should, I don't know, I may send a sentence, if folks are amenable to this idea. And then separate from that, so I guess to Leslie's point here, the reason so much of our mitigation asks have legs is because of the multi-year process we've undertaken to have a working group with Port Authority, hopefully similar, as it relates to other working groups that we have,
Health Group South
in the
before
board.
that too. That's
Correct.
that stage.
Correct.
But I would add
And
that,
the importance of those meetings taking place when they do versus when things happen in a public forum.
Maybe they could take over Pier 92 as a station.
the other thing is that they haven't admitted in the press that the construction is going to be horrible. Really bad, and it's a 10-year construction, so that gives us a lot of basis to say, okay, we need mitigation here. Yeah, this is, all of that is very bad, and they said it, and they know they are going to have to depend on us to accept a lot of things. So I think we are in a pretty good place to obtain a lot of mitigation.
And what is the total million square feet? How many is it? 3.2? Is that what it is?
7.8.
Square feet, right?
Yeah.
So the scale is, to understand this, 7.8 million square feet being constructed. And at the cost of $10.6 billion, the single largest capital
Right.
project the Port Authority has undertaken in its history. I don't think we as a community need to be shy. Ask for mitigation, especially with the construction part that, as those of us who are working, who've gone deeper into this, we have a daycare center in Metro Baptist immediately adjacent. There's a church. There's affordable housing, all these things necessarily can exist. Jeffrey mentioned in the last meeting, do we want the legacy businesses on 9th Avenue, like International or Seabreeze, to go out of business because it is so difficult to do business? He said he would like.
If International goes through goes, I really struggle with.
I mean, but these are things that are all part of our community So how do we do that? You're asking for relocation of the daycare center, that kind of stuff to understand that this is major in a way that we've never seen before, no matter what we've seen.
And I just want to point out that
Temporary.
because of the, I don't know, the word is research, but they're not even research, it's just reading line by line by line by Christine and Joe, for example. In their statements, because of their statements, they said, well, we don't have to do this. And they pointed out, oh, no, you're wrong. I'm thinking about the daycare, but they make a specific statement. Oh, we're not interfering with any kind of daycare in the community. And you said, no, wait, look. It's a Metro Baptist
It's
church
30 feet
daycare.
away.
Right. So,
Katie, you want to know?
Yeah, so, talking about how big this project is and how long it's gonna take, it makes me think I happen to have to pick people up or drop them off Board Airport during some of its busiest. I mean, I was so impressed by that effort, it's an engineering feat on a small property to keep it open and completely run it, right? And this is sort of the same thing. And I can only imagine what it's gonna be like to live within blocks of that and to frankly be trying to drive. Or be an emergency vehicle or whatever, it's just going to be a nightmare. And so, I think it's really important that we keep in mind that, pretending that like, oh no, we thought about it all, and this is gonna go smoothly, it's just not true, and we have to be ready to pretty aggressively undertake on behalf of everybody who lives there, and frankly, who has a business there. And I guess I was just wondering, because I see there's supposed to be all these ramps and everything else, is there also, because I also have another 1,000-page document, is there talk about like, if there are electric buses, like EV?
They actually going to require electric buses.
All electric and,
That was a huge change.
everything would be equipped for EV charging.
Okay.
A whole new level of infrastructure we have never seen in our city.
Yeah. And my last question is, I know people are gonna think this is sort of odd, but I think that this is gonna piss people off about congestion pricing even more. Like if there's all this,
It's more
Problems with buses.
difficult to commute.
yeah, it's gonna make it more difficult to commute on buses for quite a while. And at the same time, congestion pricing is coming in and making it much more expensive. I'm just wondering.
I don't think it might be that it wasn't that it's gonna hurt the use of buses during the operation, but it will hurt overall traffic in the area. The streets will be closed and there will be more congestion as a result of the construction.
But the commuter's experience,
But the fact that there will be congestion pricing is going to reduce the volume
Right.
of cars.
Yes.
And it's going to help.
Well, that
the
is the
construction.
intention. Of course, that is the intention.
but for a moment, pick up on your point. I'm a commuter, I'm a commuter, I'm coming from New Jersey. And I have to get off on a lot between 9th and 10th Avenues and then walk over to the 8th Avenue subway through a whole construction maze and lanes. It's gonna change the experience. I actually talked Chance Christine, talked to some New Jersey folks about this. They were like, oh my God, what is it gonna be? Like, I didn't even think about that. Like, it's gonna change the whole pattern.
Well, yeah.
Right, but it's not
I know,
gonna
that's like-
likely push them to drive. Right, which is really their alternative. And so both because of congestion pricing, but also just because of the situation.
So they honestly believe that it's not gonna change, it's not gonna negatively impact bus ridership.
It will for a while.
But not capacity.
Paul had raised this,
Stop.
very issue, and we're gonna ask them to study it. That's one of the things we're gonna put in there. If you have things you want put in, find where it can go, one of the 18 pages, and send it to me. But that's a good point.
Yeah, and on building off a few things that you said, Katie, I just wanted, two things I wanted to add on the issue of congestion pricing was to make sure that they are studying, that they're including what will be increased demand for buses as a result of congestion pricing. And I'm not sure that they've done.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
That they will, that they have included the increased ridership, I guess you would say, of buses in like post the implementation of congestion pricing. Because bus ridership should go up.
That's the big,
Oh,
that was a
this
big
is-
problem with that.
This is in the study, right?
So I just want to make sure that,
Yeah.
that I didn't see the words congestion pricing, so I just want to be sure, at least in.
The
Oh, driven
So-
by congestion pricing. No, they have not done that because, what they did is like, let's assume that there is no congestion pricing. Just because in their mind, that was making everything worse. So they didn't want to do an optimal, first of all, they didn't know whether it was going to happen. And second, they didn't want to make a study where people would say, oh, but you assume that and it's not right. So they don't know the assumption to make for congestion pricing yet.
Right, well, I don't know how to be more, I don't know how to think about that. I'll think about it, but if there's something more to be said about what will be potentially increased demand for buses as a result of the implementation, I think we want to mention that. I also, something Katie mentioned is this process for review and feedback during the 10-year construction. It did come up in one of our last meetings, and I think I did see reference to that in the letter, JD, and I'll send you my comments on that.
And where it goes.
And where it goes, but I think something about like the feedback loop for residents and businesses and how that's gonna be managed. I know that
They
that's.
have, they said they are going to have a construction task force.
And that money should be, like, that should be a budget.
Oh,
line,
yeah,
So
they
that
have
we
to.
can be sure that if they need to be making.
They held it up saying
funding.
that's what made the World Trade Center, the construction go.
Right.
They had that task force, otherwise it was dead.
And then I just wanted, the last thing is Marty shared some feedback with me that I will send to you, JD, but specifically about the use of low carbon and carbon negative building materials and non-porous, so.
We got the
you want to
email.
email, okay, great.
We got it.
Just wanted to be sure that was, necessary.
Right now,
Katie and I had
two
conversations today too about just some.
Great,
other-
great.
Something like that, Jessica, I think will say, please confirm that there will be.
Great.
Because
Well,
they
hopefully-
represented that.
Hopefully Marty will hear that on the tape, because that was for him. Paul, did you have one other thing you wanted to ask?
And one thing for Leslie, so I did deeper further research on the Astros dog run in Reese's Park. And I got confirmation from Astros what their annual fee is. It's $40 when they change the key, so some years they've had no fee at all. And they use that and the $2 key fee for the key parks to say these are not public. So.
And I talked to Astros and they said, there is no fee.
Yeah,
You
so,
don't have to pay if you
Right,
can't pay.
right.
So
This is the
it's
goal.
just-
Right.
It's just that Port Authority in their designated as
It's a private.
a private.
right,
It's
so
not.
they got
Not
away
confirmed
from
with
saying
Astros.
they're displacing them because they said there's a fee.
Oh, yes.
We're gonna detail debunk that even further. I'm gonna give you some numbers.
No, JD did a good job. You did a good job.
But I got more. I just spoke to them on Friday.
Great,
Yeah.
okay, so, great job, thank you, JD, thank you everyone for your work on this. We will need,
Doing a motion.
Motion to adopt as amended based on this discussion.
And a new conclusion.
for those who don't know, it literally ends, we only wished it could have been longer. Paul, I'll take yours as a second, all in favor? Okay, any opposed? Present not eligible, abstaining.
Barbara, did you have your hand up for favor?
I'm not voting.
Yeah,
Got it.
tuning in,
Yep. Got
dedicated board member here.
Yep.
Okay, great,
Katie,
thank
that was
you,
awesome.
thank you guys, great job.
JD, that was great.
Great.
Really gave that really.
And if you're hearing, if you have any specific edits, if you have edits or suggestions, send them
And Christine
as
too.
specific as possible to JD.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, one more thing, we have to get this out, I'm gonna go to Janine's birthday, so she can send it to the full board by Friday, so. If you get a chance to.
Time is of the essence.
I'm sure we're going to get you.
Thank you. Okay, we are going, we're gonna take a quick detour before the chair report. We have still people joining us via Zoom, and some people in the room, and so, because we switched the agenda, if anyone wants to speak, came to this meeting today from the public to share, comments, we'll take this time. We do ask that you be brief, and know that many of you have spoken in other venues on what I imagine are similar topics, but we do want to be sure that if you're prioritizing being here today, that we make time. So, please raise your hand, and Jesse, if you're on Zoom, Jesse will bring you over, and if you're here in person, you could just give me eye contact to let me know that you would like to speak.
This is new business.
So no one in the room is planning to speak. Oh,
Yes,
you do
you
want to
can.
speak, Alexa? Okay.
Yeah, I've listened to the conference and sometimes I don't understand. It's okay.
Okay.
It's okay. I got a big mouth. I listened to the conference and I'm a little confused because they said something like they're gonna keep NYCHA. Like, there's gonna be like components, from what I understood, I don't understand half of the things that you guys say, because you guys talk in codes. And, I think you should be more simple about it, so I can understand what's going on. Because I don't want to lose section 9, because I'm low income, but there are lower incomes in my building. And we should not be, out of it, you know, we need our homes. And I don't want demolition, and I keep repeating it over and over and over again, no demolition, say section 9. And I write to the district attorney all the time, and I ask him, because he works with the federal building, and I ask him to save section 9, which hopefully he does answer me, or answers the people, not really me, but I'm not looking out for myself, because I could move with my family maybe, or maybe I'll move someplace else, I don't know, maybe a nursing home. But I'm looking out for the society of low income. That's what you guys gotta think about, because you can't just take a bulldozer truck and destroy our lives, and then where do we go? You know, what happens to us? You know, that's all I gotta say.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I just want to say, also, just, going off what Alexa just said, it's also future generations of people that can live in NYCHA. It's the future as well. But the one thing I just wanted to tell you guys about is that actually on NYCHA's own, website, under section 8, it says, you know, the section 8 program works as a rental subsidy that allows families to pay a reasonable amount of their income towards rent. Then the next sentence is, eligible families will receive a voucher to begin searching for housing. Generally, families will pay no more than 40% of their adjusted monthly income towards their rent. So instead of the 30%, right, NYCHA's only supposed to pay 30%, on NYCHA's own website, it says 40%.
It is not, that is not the same section 8 it's referring to. The section 8 here would be project-based, which is 30%, which we confirm multiple times. That is about a voucher. NYCHA gives out vouchers for people to go search for section 8 housing around the city. Is that correct? It's used a voucher to somewhere around the city. Here in Chelsea, NYCHA, and for a project-based voucher, it is 30%. And we have gotten that confirmed in writing, and it will not change. And we've had them reaffirm that at a meeting we had December, and they reaffirmed it in writing. Reaffirmed it in writing, yeah.
Thank you, guys. We're gonna go now online. Thank you. Salinas, I think we have, and Jackie.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, Salinas, sorry, go
Okay.
ahead.
So a new RFP means we will still be privatized. Significant delays is good, gives us a chance to fight against privatization. NYCHA needs to be held accountable to follow through on their work orders. The funds are available. NYCHA pays vendors $708 to change a light bulb. This is an example of the fraud that's been happening in NYCHA. And these are the costs and miscalculation used in the physical needs analysis. This explains why rehab option is so high, in the billions. NYCHA should not get away with the lies and the deception for the sake of turning us over to private developers. And Alexa makes a good point. Being privatized will exclude very low income residents, leading to housing scarcity for the low income. Okay, so 30% might still be available, but project-based section 8 has an income bracket. So people who's making a social security income earner who's earning $18,000, such as my mother, is not going to qualify to be in project-based section 8. And Joe said that it's in writing, but I want to see it. We, the tenants, have not seen this guarantee that we're going to be charged 30% of our income.
Thank you, Salinas. Jackie?
Jackie, on mute.
Jackie?
Hi, guys. Last week, HOU brought in a bunch of seniors or elderly people to testify. I think that's so mean. I mean, I'm sure that they could find better residents to testify for the demolition. That's one, because I could bring you a bunch of elderly and disabled people, but I'm just fighting for them. That's one. And number two, is there any way we could erase this whole crap and start all over again? That's it for me.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. All right, great. We're gonna move on to the chair report, and I'm gonna try to keep this brief. Okay.
So is this another Shakespeare reading like Harry did last week?
No, I'm gonna be brief, but there have been a number of hearings. We've talked about them really in the two topics that were on the agenda for the Port Authority and for NYCHA, but I want to thank everybody who's gone to those meetings, participated, heard from the public. I think largely we have not given testimony really in an effort to get these letters passed at the board level. But again, I encourage people individually, if you are interested on either of these, to make your comments and remarks heard and your concerns heard.
Still submit in writing.
And you can still submit in writing, but many of us attended all of the hearings, both for Port Authority and for NYCHA. And as mentioned, we had a meeting 10 days ago with that Eric Botcher convened with other elected officials representing our district. It was very well attended, together with Related Essence and tenant leaders from the communities, and really felt that that was a really helpful way of opening the dialogue. And we look forward to getting some of those answers, as you mentioned, for the questions that have been really on the table for a very long time, including the survey data, which I know we are all really motivated to get. In addition to that, bringing up a topic that was discussed last month, I just want to remind folks that we are still planning to do a casino hearing on March 19th, location TBD. And we have requested the gaming commissioner join. We are not hearing from any specific applicants, and this is really just an opportunity to hear from the community on folks' thoughts about gaming. I know Senator Liz Krueger had something last week, I think it was, and there's a link for that. So if anybody's interested in watching some of that, that could be helpful, but really want to be sure we're hearing from the people directly in our district and encourage you to participate in that. Additionally, we had a briefing with Related on the Western Rail Yards, and that the development for that area is progressing with the preparation or with the release of a draft scope of work. So yet another long document for us to dig into. In fact, I've been carrying around my copy here. And this will be going to Clinton House Kitchen Land Use on March 13th. Comments are going to be due April 4th on this one. And so it will need to be submitted immediately after full board. The good news is that it gets to go to full board. The challenge is that we're going to have to incorporate those comments and get that turnaround really quickly. Exactly.
And it specifically to allow the construction of a casino on the Western Rail Yards.
And
Well, there are two more things in the report.
Two more things are that, yes, it is specifically motivated by a desire to incorporate a casino. And is a pretty significant alteration to what had originally been proposed for the space. And so we did have a small meeting with Related last week, and that was raised. Joe did a great job, Paul did a great job of expressing concern about that. But you know, and I think actually speaks to why it's so important we put all the options on the table with something like NYCHA, because you never know how long this process is going to take and how many things need to have been considered, because here we are looking at a project that's very different than what was negotiated 10 years ago. Related is planning to attend the Hell's Kitchen meeting, but we should all note that during these periods they may be limited, just as the Port Authority was limited, or NYCHA previously, on how much more they can share because they are in this official process of releasing their draft EIS. Now, any more comments on the Western Rail Yards? Okay. Also wanted to mention that we are going to work with our elected officials to request a meeting with ESD to discuss Site K and the Siemens Y, the Bayview, thank you. Recognizing that both of those projects, we have high hopes for and expect there's certainly on site K, it seems that there may be some momentum there. And really want to be sure that the state is looking to use those sites and move forward with those sites in the ways that this board has previously advocated for. And so we'll be reaching out to do that as well. Lastly, I just want to remind everyone that applications for community board are live right now. They extended the deadline to March 8th. About half of you have to reapply, myself included. So please take that seriously and get that done. And I think we're looking at like 5 open positions at this point. And so again, if you have particular as committee chairs, if you feel like there's a gap in knowledge or understanding, I know I've said this a few times already, but even reaching out to your fellow board members to say, I'd love for this kind of expertise or this kind of perspective. We did share that with the Manhattan Borough President's Office, some of those ideas already, to make sure we have diversity and representation, that we have more parents of school-age children, but would really encourage you all as co-chairs, as chairs, to be thinking about that within your own committee. And if there's any new ideas or thoughts you want us to be sure to lift up, if not in specific recruitment efforts, but to the board, to the Manhattan Borough President's Office, I'd be happy to share that.
I realized I had a question about Weston.
Okay, please.
When they presented their current proposal, did they put in the context of what they had agreed to?
There is,
Did they
yes.
give a reason?
Yeah.
Why? What was the reason? I assume that's the reason, but what did they say?
They stated they needed to finance the construction of the platform. And the only way to finance construction of the platform was to have the preferred option is 100% commercial use. He said, doesn't sound like it. That's a problem.
He said, it doesn't sound like a problem?
They want to eliminate 2,000 dwelling units.
2,000 dwelling units.
Yeah, because originally it was mostly housing on the west and commercial on
And
the east.
carefully done as a site plan for light and air and open space.
Yeah.
And I'm not, yes, and I'm not defending them, but they are maintaining their commitment to the affordable units, to their affordable units. I understand, I'm just saying, like, we should acknowledge what they are doing in all the ways, and they are maintaining. that.
If the world has changed and you can't do X.
Right.
Then also come back with a much more robust affordable housing plan.
Exactly.
As part of the whole deal, because in
Right.
fact, there's a lot of resources out there that didn't exist in 2000.
I mean, I think it looks like to me like it's no unless. Unless you do 1,500 affordable housing and that's it.
Yeah, we're
And I-
gonna write a 1-page letter.
Right.
You all supporting that? That's great.
I have a question on affordable housing, so. Anything we can do about slaughterhouse, that we should go and meet with EDC, or we should go and meet with the elected and
Actually,
try to move things?
we're doing it. I got to the draft an administrative letter about Site K to follow up to our discussion. And it really jumps on the slaughterhouse as the example. You can't rely upon a hotel to finance your affordable housing, and look at this slaughterhouse project. It's stuck because the financing's not.
Yeah, but now what are we doing about slaughterhouse?
Well, I think that opens the discussion to see.
Because this is ESD,
Right.
it's not
I
EDC.
thought we lob out the thing first and then follow up. I have mentioned this to council members saying we need to really pick it up where we left off.
Right.
Who is the admin letter going to?
I thought it was going to ESD.
About slaughterhouse?
No.
He said,
Site K.
admin for Site K.
Site K.
But I guess
He's doing
I'm
that
curious
first,
if
he's
Christine's
doing that
flag
first,
about
and then he says, let's
given
do
the-
the other things.
Yeah.
the holding pattern of slaughterhouse.
Right.
Well, I thought if we, an admin letter first, then you can attach that admin letter to the,
The site K is the one that lives to the north.
that's the opposite of the Japanese, yeah.
But thank you for raising slaughterhouse,
You're dead
and
right.
just to,
You're dead right.
in mind, a lot of things are still new to me, so, adding that to my personal agenda.
Yeah, it's been 10 years.
Mhm.
No.
Yes, it has.
Not the
Yes.
approval. The approval's 10 years old.
Right, no, but we started.
Oh, when we started,
He was the approval.
yeah, he had no child.
Right?
Started.
Right.
So it's like the site which had a tremendous potential, and it's not moving.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments on questions for the chair report? Otherwise, we'll move on to. Yes, definitely.
It's multiple iteration. So on your desks right now is the draft full board agenda and the draft committee schedule for March. Please take a look. It's also in your Dropbox, so take a look at it in the next few days. You see something that's wrong or needs to be updated, specifically the committee schedule, please let us know. Please take a look at all of the committees, make sure you're aware of what's happening in all of the different committees. And, and reach out accordingly. Also, the moon and the stars and the heavens have all aligned, and there is no changes for the month of March. It's committee wise, yeah, so I'm really happy, so please don't mess any of that up. Co-chairs of committees, so that's all solid, and I said the only, Justice said the only other thing that is, sort of still out there that's, we got a date, and we have confirmation of the commission, the gaming commission to attend, but we're just confirming the location is the, forum on casinos, which would be the 19th.
You don't want to do it at the hotel.
But how is that?
I do not want to do it.
How is 19 working with the, with the letter that we need to do?
You mean about the Western Rail areas?
Yeah,
Totally
You
separate.
mean the,
Yeah, but I mean-
you mean the draft, the committee's letter, well, no, that's gonna go to full.
April.
April, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a forum and a
No, but it's
hearing.
just kind of.
Yeah, it's not a committee meeting, there's no vote at the end of this event, it's just gathering that information. If folks wanna to take action after that, that would be at an exec meeting or maybe another meeting.
Can I add color to that? And that the reason we're doing the hearing is because we have the zoning text amendment to bypass the ULURP and allow gaming facilities under land use. And we didn't want that meeting to turn into a
Yes.
anti-casino, pro-casino debate. We wanted to stay focused on the zoning text amendment, so we offered up this hearing to allow the public to talk about their concerns or issues. But separate from that meeting.
Oh, and one other last thing, just because I know some folks want to do it. So our full board meeting is at Pier 57 this time. We are rotating on a continual basis, but just want to make sure everybody's aware that it is at Pier 57.
Thank you, Jesse. I think we received 2 items of new business. Joe, do you want to?
Sure. The first one is to pass out to you, it's a proposed local law by Councilman Barker. He had contacted me a couple of weeks ago saying he wanted to put together a local law to help deal with the protection against illegal demolition in our district. And he asked me for some comments from a technical end on it. I reviewed it just last, I think that's like Wednesday or something, made some comments, and the specific issue that was missing was a lack of notifications to the community board. The legislative person said, that's in the charter, and the answer was, you get 5 days notice. I'm like, okay. DOB doesn't work that way, and to find that part of the charter, forget it. So we asked specifically for something that laid out how notice would happen. And I asked for the legislation to be held until I got put in. And in fact, on Friday afternoon, the legislative part of the council agreed to put it in. So this just came out this morning. This is the text, and I wanted people to know about it. He originally intended to do a press conference this week, that's gonna be postponed, but sometime in the next 2 weeks, there'll be some sort of event. And we have been asking, when I showed this to Matt, so he's like, this is a long time, we've been asking for this for a number of years. So this is coming now, and we should be taking it up at land use, but also supporting the council members' efforts to have this notification provision. So if there is demolition in the special zoning district, there's a community board notification. And the other part is, we asked specifically, so the change that I also made is that we do not rely upon the applicant to evaluate the zoning. It's the commissioner that evaluates the zoning to see that it's accurate, that we can demolish. That was a big key part here.
Thank you, Joe. If we could just make sure that both land use committees are aware of this.
All right.
And I think they're all. Yeah.
It's kind of, the commissioner, why the commissioner?
The council felt it had to go to the top level, like DOB.
But I'm concerned that's a political appointment. And so is there, a civil servant whose responsibility is the combing of zoning text versus
Oh, I'm sorry.
an administrative head.
It actually says the commissioner shall establish a procedure for the verification. It does not say
Okay.
commissioner verified. The whole point was getting them, they have to have something written and a clear procedure. It's not like, as we know, the last 12 of them or 18 of them. We thought we told you.
Katie?
So I'm wondering, is this the language we have requested that we just want to be notified? Or have we said, have we asked for any sort of time period or input or anything, or did we just say, oh, we want to?
I specifically pointed them to the section in the Hudson Yard Special Zoning District, which gave us 60 days, 45 days notification, so we hit our community board cycle. And this was what the council put in. I think it's important, once it gets introduced, that we as a community board respond with that exact time.
Because this seems.
Yeah, I will tell you from where we started, we're further.
Yeah.
Now we need to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this isn't a problem.
So that could be very good. If land use to be bringing this up, that'd be fantastic.
Maybe?
I just follow up on Katie's remark. So the last sentence, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So there is no specific. It just says you gotta notify us.
Yeah.
And they may proceed and notify us, as you know, once.
That's the,
So how can we make that?
so I would say when we take this up on committee,
Do it then.
we then ask to mirror the language and we, the community board negotiated this in our district, a 45-day comment period for demolition as opposed to special permit. I think we point to that text, like I pointed to this, and say, we want to incorporate that.
Thank you. Bert?
Yeah, and is there a specific definition, any special purpose district?
So I thought it should be applied just to our districts. And I was informed it's any district because there's 50 members of the council and everybody wants to say, if this provision is put in line, I want this to apply. And I understood that rationale.
So it could be a multiple.
There's the Sheep's Head Bay district to preserve marine stuff.
Okay,
So
not
that's
just a land.
That's how the council,
district or-
no, it's how the council chose to write it.
Okay.
Make it more palatable.
Okay, thank you, and there was a second item that Paul brought up for new business around Western Rail Yards, but Joe, it sounded like you had a second item. You, sorry.
Did I guess?
No.
Okay.
I think you covered it in your chair's report, and that just, I'm concerned that we have yet another scope, and it's the opportunity to throw everything at them, and so. WPE, transportation, housing, let's all look at the scope, and we have a shorter period of time and a lot of writing to do, so. And I would love to do a one-page letter, but that's.
So the proposal, Leslie's, would make it darker than shadows all day.
So to that point, thank you, just a reminder that that meeting is March 13th, so
So we should put that on our agendas for March.
yes, if you want to, or you want to go to Chelsea, like, I'll let you guys figure that out together.
When come to yours or mine, they're just.
No, I mean, just for committee discussion.
Yeah,
not
for
them,
committee
not for them
discussion,
to come
I think
to, just for committee
Like
discussion.
we do with Chelsea.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just adding it to committee discussion for both WPE and
Yeah.
housing and
Yeah.
transportation.
Yeah, right now.
and then Jesse just asked about the scope, we can be sure to share it with everybody, so you also have it.
Is that, what Dropbox is that? Is this,
The Western one.
sure, Jesse, what Dropbox is that in?
The Western Railroad ones?
It's not in one.
It
I
was
didn't,
in-
I didn't put in a public trial, so
Well,
I just sent it to you all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you put it in the discussion there?
I will.
Yeah.
Thank you, sorry, it's dramatic.
So we can take that. I mean, do you want to go for EIS?
That's out there, but the NYCHA stuff on our homepage is so useful, and I know the website stuff is admin and work, but given the volume of scopes of work that we have going on, these are now very specific categories, and is there a way that we can have, I know we have Port Authority, right, we have Port Authority, we have NYCHA, now there needs to be Western Rail Yards, can those be on the website, so it's like, boom, I can just go. And
Well,
there's the
PA
stuff for
is-
them, right,
NYCHA, so.
and NYCHA is, so can we have Western Rail Yards?
Yeah. I mean,
Because we have the scope, there's gonna be letters, I'm sure everybody's gonna dig stuff up
There'll
with
be
light
maps.
dust on it.
Yeah, I mean, we already have a whole
PG
yard
time.
page,
Right,
but like, which hasn't been touched in a while because there's just not like
things changing about it, so this is the first thing that's changing, so. We can definitely,
Maybe we put this and we link to that. I did find myself digging through that. It's very impressive to learn to organize all of that. So maybe just link back to that.
You had to go find the Western Milliards comment letter and the thing, like,
and then the site plan.
the site plan is not on that thing, I have to find the site plan from him.
So the approved site plan, not development plan.
From the zoning.
Send me whatever you want on the page. Don't make me go look for it too. So.
Okay, that is everything I received in terms of new business. Going once, please. Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'm sorry. You guys heard about my forum tomorrow night, 6 o'clock?
John,
You
why
wanna
don't you tell us
introduce
yourself?
yourself? And- Yeah, because also we have folks on Zoom and
I'm sorry.
we have folks on Zoom. You should please
Oh,
introduce
okay,
yourself
yeah.
then.
So we're at the People's Forum.
Can you introduce yourself?
My name is John Mudd with the Midtown South Community Council. And we're producing a forum tomorrow night at 6 o'clock at the People's Forum. We're on Zoom as well. And if you haven't received my invites or anything, you want some more information, you can reach me at john.mudd@usa.net. It's about saving public housing. So we're going to be discussing other ways and about the Fulton and the Elliot Chelsea housing that they're looking to demolish. And we're open, we have a community section, where you can have some input and we'll discuss it with the community as well. We have some professionals, some development professionals and people from the development side.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Can we get a replay on that motion?
Motion to adjourn, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.